just a little bit. Thanks so much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Jay Crawford, and this is what's new.
I bet a lot of people just really started paying attention if they weren't.
You haven't even seen the context to the size of the things yet.
It's insane.
Where do we put it in context?
We'll be getting to that in just a little bit. Great to be with you again. Betsy, a very good Wednesday afternoon to you and to everyone watching at home. We begin today at 5 with developing news out of Ukraine. Officials there say an attack on a children's hospital in the southern city of Mariupol was carried out by Russia. The images are absolutely horrific. At least 17 were injured. Witnesses say the ground shook more than a mile away. Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, tweeted that there were children, there were people under the wreckage. Also tonight, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he thinks Putin will fail and that he's increasingly isolating himself as sanctions against Russia mount.
What we're looking at is whether or not President Putin will decide to try to finally cut the losses that he's inflicted on himself.
Lawmakers are working on a defense and humanitarian aid for Ukraine. The package is said to be worth around $14 billion.
Well, the refugee crisis is growing as an unprecedented number of Ukrainians have now fled the country. Still more are trapped in cities in the eastern part of Ukraine. Sarah Shookman joins us in the newsroom with a look at why Northeast Ohio might be expecting an influx of those refugees coming here. Good afternoon, Sarah.
Hi, Betsy. Well, we know Northeast Ohioans have been quick to help, donating first aid, clothing, and household items, as well as cash to those in need thousands of miles away. But Cleveland's nonprofit MedWish is organizing a huge drive-up donation event this weekend and has already shipped some 6,000 pounds of medical supplies into Ukraine and neighboring Poland. There is word, though, from the state that that need could soon be a lot closer to home as Ohio prepares for an influx of refugees looking for shelter here or possibly resettlement. Now, at least 2 million people have left the Ukraine. Half of them are children. And while there's no timeline for when some of them might arrive in the U.S. or Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine is asking the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services to convene a summit of organizations next week to prepare to welcome refugees. I just talked with him in the last hour.
I have a panel of people, for example, who have been involved in doing the resettlement, organizations that have done that in the past. We also will have, though, some refugees, people who have been resettled, people who have gone through the experience, and they'll share that with everyone. We want Ohio to be a very welcoming state. It will be a welcoming state. We also, though, just need to be ready. And all the people who, have volunteered and want to help, we want them to know, what the process will be and how this actually works.
That summit is planned for next Thursday, March 17th at St. Vladimir Grand Hall in Parma. They are hoping to exchange ideas and information about what Ukrainian refugees will really need and how those groups can continue to fill those roles in the long term. Since 2018, more than 500 Ukrainians have resettled in Ohio, 360 of them all here in the Cleveland area. And Betsy, Governor DeWine says that's the kind of thing that the federal government will actually consider as it makes these decisions, where family or other refugees of the same nationality might be nearby. So he thinks the number of Ukrainians who could ultimately land in Ohio could really be significant.
Well, we are a melting pot here, certainly, and there are so many people who have Eastern European roots. So I'm sure we're going to be opening our arms and welcoming some new folks in.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Sarah.
Well, now on your feet at 5, between rising prices at the pump and the grocery store, some people are being forced to make impossible decisions. Do you pay to fill up your tank, or do you go to the grocery store? Local food banks are also feeling the pressure to help feed the needy. The Greater Cleveland Food Bank gets food through federal and state commodities and through donations. Then they buy whatever else they're not receiving. But those federal commodities are down, causing them to buy more than usual. And of course, when they buy, those prices are higher than usual. It's a tricky situation when demand remains so high. The food bank is serving even more people now than it did before the pandemic.
So we're seeing food overall increase anywhere between 20 and 26% depending on the item. And this isn't just the food, it's the cost to package the food, the labeling, the aluminum cans.
The food bank says with gas prices increasing, they're anticipating shipping prices will also go up. The Akron-Canton Regional Food Bank is expecting even more demand as people turn to the support of food banks as costs for these everyday items continue to climb.
Today, there was an official announcement in Washington, D.C. A private company says it wants to bring a submarine repair dry dock right here to Northeast Ohio. Now, the move could bring as many as 3,000 jobs to Lorain. Our Emma Henderson shows us what it could look like.
Lorain has seen many industry jobs leave over the past several years. The United States is in need of more places equipped to repair military submarines. The two problems could be fixed with an optimal opportunity.
Unfortunately, due to factory closures, steel mills, auto plants, shipyards along the in the greater Midwest, along the north coast of the United States at Lake Erie in particular, we've got an abundance of available people.
Marta DeLeon has lived here her whole life and now owns her own downtown bakery. The idea that more opportunities for skilled manufacturing jobs could be coming to Lorain is exciting for her, and she says for some of her customers.
This would bring so many more people here. It would help build our economy. We're just now rebuilding our downtown and getting it back, you know, how it should be. I'm hoping to get some more businesses down here.
Bartlett Maritime Corporation is the group with the plan, a public-private partnership that will require money from the state and national government, as well as investment from Goldman Sachs. Once the project is complete, they say it would bring 2 enclosed dry docks employing 2,000 to 3,000 people at the Lorain location, and 500 to 1,000 at a separate facility in Lordstown.
We've been public with this for the last 6 weeks. My inbox is full every day with people saying, when can I apply for a job? When can I come to work for you? There is an abundant pool of people ready and willing to work hard.
Now, while we have seen the local government show support for this idea, it's important to remember there are still so many logistical questions that need answered. And obviously, if the project gets selected, then that's a years-long building process. So we are in the very beginning stages of this possibly happening. Betsy?
Well, that means we have many more stories to come on all of this. Thanks, Emma. Well, the last 2 years, everybody, believe it or not, it's been a lot.
Yeah,
I think we all know that. 2 years ago today, that is when things got real in regards to COVID-19 here in Ohio. The state's 3 first COVID cases were confirmed on this date in 2020, all in Cuyahoga County.
Yeah, what a 2-year run it has been. Just a few weeks later, our Russ Mitchell spoke with then Ohio Department of Health Director Amy Acton about what was in store for us. Remember, she was such a source of calm and wisely trying to get us through this. This was at a time when, remember, we knew very little about COVID-19, but Dr. Acton was spot on when she told Russ what we were in for.
Some of what they're seeing in the data is that it will have surges. It will come back. It's until we have a vaccine, until we have immunity in our population, it's going to be a threat for us. And this is really going to be something we're dealing with over a couple years.
Let me just make sure I understand something you just said. We could be dealing with this for 2 years?
You know, this virus isn't going to go away. It's going to spread. You can see in countries in Asia now, they're worried about it being reintroduced. Until we have a vaccine and actual population level immunity, those of us who haven't become sick in this first peak are still vulnerable.
Wow.
That's remarkable, Bets. Because I can tell you,
it is.
When we heard that in the newsroom, we all looked at each other and said, oh, she's
2 years.
She's terribly off on this.
Yeah.
It can't be 2 years. And here we are, 2 years to the day of our first case in Ohio. And we want to say that it's behind us, but we've done that before. And we've got to be careful. What I've done today is I've gathered together some key numbers about COVID, both over the last 2 years and where we are right now. And we'll start, Bets, with cases. Today we have 829 new cases.
Okay.
Our high was just 6 weeks ago.
6 weeks.
20,000 cases in one day.
That's the Omicron variant.
That was the Omicron.
Yeah.
Total cases, 2.66 million Ohioans.
Just in Ohio.
That is a quarter of our state's population. And trust me, that number's way higher. Those are the ones that we know about.
That's right.
That population is equal to Franklin and Cuyahoga counties combined. Our two biggest counties in the state. That's how many people that we know of have had COVID. Hospitalizations, today that number's way down. 729 are in Ohio hospitals. Just 6 weeks ago, we were at our high. 6,000 to the case. That's how many cases we had just 6 weeks ago. Total number of hospitalizations, 113,000. That would fill First Energy Stadium, Progressive Field, and Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
All three.
That's how many people we've had hospitalized in the state of Ohio over the last 2 years. Positivity rate, we're in great shape now, 3.3%. 2 months ago, we were at our high, 26%. And the deaths really drives home the total impact of this. We're at an 88-day average over the last 3 weeks. We're still losing 88 people a day from COVID. Overall, Ohio has lost 37,000 souls to COVID-19. That would more than fill Progressive Field.
Wow.
A couple of other stats that I thought jumped out at me today as I was going over the numbers. 4% of all of our deaths were under the age of 50. 68% of all of our deaths were over the age of 70.
Wow.
So it sort of gives you some sort of an idea of who this impacted the most. We knew that throughout, but what a 2-year ride it has been. I think we're all hopeful that we're at the finish line, but you got to be careful because we thought that one other time, and then Omicron hit.
Yeah, and these are just the case numbers that are directly related to COVID. We haven't even talked about the economic impacts or the job losses.
And you know what, Bets? I think we'll be measuring that for decades, particularly the impact on young children.
Generation
we just don't know. Wow.
2 years. Oh boy. All right, well, what is coming up? Who doesn't want better skin and hair? Talk about a big pivot here. Supplements are the big topic of conversation. Are they actually worth the money? We're going to find out in our Wellness Wednesday.
I noticed Matt's skin since he did the Vaseline
Very
slugging.
supple.
It looks great recently. Then we're going to tell you why Tony Hawk is being forced to take a break from his skateboard. We'll explain that in Pop Break.
And speaking of Matt, with his very supple skin, how's that forecast working out?
I broke out in hives that evening and then itched them all off, and then you're left with this. It's
that's
great.
exfoliation then.
Yeah, it's something like that. That's what they call it. Speaking of exfoliation, we're going to exfoliate these. I don't know. I don't even know where to go with that. We're not going to.
It was a good try, though.
I dug a hole. Your evening forecast looks like this. We'll start over. We're in the 40s now, back into the 30s tonight. Quiet day tomorrow, and then we track our winter storm in here. We've got a pretty good idea of how it's going to shake out. We'll talk about it next.
All right, everybody, it is Wellness Wednesday, and I think it's safe to say that most of us want shinier, healthier hair, fewer wrinkles, and stronger fingernails. Got my nails done today. Well, there are lots of supplements that promise you can have all of those things, but here's the gig. Do they actually work? Here's Lindsay Buckingham with what Consumer Reports found before you spend your money.
Drugstore shelves are full of supplements that promise to improve hair, nails, and skin. A month's supply can cost you anywhere from a few bucks to over 100. Most of these contain ingredients like vitamins A, C, and E, coenzyme Q10, and also biotin, which is a B vitamin. Hair supplements often contain manganese and selenium, as well as fatty acids like fish oil and flaxseed oil. All of it might sound good, but where's the science that says it works?
Well, if your body has a nutrient deficiency, it can cause changes to the hair and sometimes to the skin and nails. Like not getting enough vitamin A or vitamin E can cause rough, scaly patches on the skin. And a biotin deficiency can cause eczema and even hair loss.
But deficiencies are relatively uncommon. Most people can get the necessary nutrients through a healthy diet. And experts say there's no good evidence that taking a supplement will help with normal aging-related hair loss or nail damage, or give you healthier skin. And what's worse, getting too much of a nutrient can be bad too, like taking too much vitamin A can actually trigger hair loss. But millions of people do take supplements. If that's you, shop carefully.
Dietary supplements are not tightly regulated by the FDA. They might contain substances not listed on the label, or they might contain more or less of an ingredient than promised.
If you choose to take supplements, CR suggests you choose one whose contents have been verified or certified by one of these 4 groups. Lindsay Buckingham, 3 News.
All right, well, Consumer Reports says simple things like drinking plenty of water. They drill that into you. Eating a balanced diet and avoiding too much time in the sun can make a difference in keeping your hair, skin, and nails healthy.
Do you drink a lot of water?
I try to. I really try hard.
It's the most important thing we can do.
And I'm terrible at it.
Do you know that, so my wife recently purchased 2, one for her and one for me. They're big jugs, gallon.
Yeah.
And it's got little marks on there.
Drink this much.
It's 9 o'clock. Are you to this line? It's noon. You're doing good. It's 3 o'clock, halfway home. And you consume that, but you feel better.
Yeah.
I haven't done it yet.
And then you get to go visit the potty 900 times during the day.
But that's all good for the body.
Yeah. Speaking of vitamin supplements, the best supplements of all, as Matt and Peyton are taking a nice chug there. Don't worry, we got you. The best supplements, prenatal vitamins. You wouldn't know that. Matt wouldn't know that, but anybody who's had a baby and they were told prenatal vitamins, man, your hair grows like crazy fast, and your skin, of course, your body's all jacked up anyway.
Now, would it be bad to stay on those all the time?
There's a lot that's just kind of unnecessary.
So it's wasted. It just goes right through the system. Huh? Okay. I probably won't try that, but
just in case.
It's good to know.
My wife has like 80 bottles of those things, the prenatals. I'm like, what are you spending money on now? It's like 40 bucks a bottle. Anyway.
Weather word is sunscreen, because that's good for your skin.
You're going to need it. I mean, even in the winter, you need it.
I figure that's the easiest weather word I've ever given, Matt.
Yeah, that's great. That fits in right into the cloudy forecast. Thanks, Jay. That'll be perfect. Yeah, we'll highlight the 7-day a little bit longer today. All right, temperatures in the 40s right now. A little breeze off the lake, though, coming out of the north and the west, so that brings our lake temperatures down. 'Tis the season for our lake cooling, so cooler north, warmer down to the south. Not a bad afternoon, though. Saw that sun squeak out after those morning snowflakes. You notice tonight, quiet weather, mainly clear skies. Couple clouds building back in here after midnight. Temperatures back down into the 30s. Here's the snow that moved through. Boy, it looked prolific on radar, right? We had a lot of dry air, though, here at the surface. So you probably looked at the radar this morning. You saw dark blue over us saying, oh, well, what's going on outside? Well, a lot of it evaporated before it hit the ground. We did have snowflakes reaching the ground down towards the southeast as expected. Just a light coating there. They saw anywhere from 1 to 3 inches over towards Pittsburgh. That system's long gone. Quiet weather across the U.S., but you notice the overall pattern coming at us from the north and the west. That's where the cold air comes from this time of year. That's where the polar jet is. The polar jet holds back all the cold air. That's in the northern periphery of the U.S. We've got the subtropical jet, which brings brings the moisture in. They're kind of not connected right now, right? But as this dives south, that will start to pick up some Gulf of Mexico moisture, and that's going to spin up our storm system later on this week. And boy, is there cold air waiting for us, especially for this time of year. This is a pretty cold punch that'll be moving in here late Friday on into Saturday. Tonight, don't need the sunscreen because the sun's not up. We're down into the 30s tonight. We'll have lots of clear skies around. Notice the clouds building back in after midnight tonight. Tomorrow we'll likely start with clouds. We could even squeeze out a sprinkle or a shower down to the south. There's a little boundary there. Other than that, we're dry tomorrow. We should see improving conditions throughout the day. And another not bad day. Should make it up near 40 degrees. It will be a tad cooler than it was today as that wind will continue out of the north. All right, let's talk this storm system Friday into Saturday. We've got the cold air diving into the plains. There'll be a nice strip of snow off towards our west Friday morning. We're quiet Friday morning. No problems locally. We start to gather Gulf of Mexico moisture. Frontal boundary comes in at the same time. With temperatures near 50 in Akron and likely in the 30s at Cleveland, there'll be a big fine line between the warmth and the cold. We'll likely start as some rain that changes over to wet snow by Friday evening. If you have Friday evening plans, Friday night plans, or Saturday plans, that's when the bulk of the snow will move in as this low pressure heads up the East Coast. How much snow we talking? We're not putting numbers quite on it yet, but as of right now, it looks like a good maybe 2 to 6 incher, especially the further east you are. You notice the foot of snow plus out towards New England. That's where the bulk of the impacts will be. But yeah, decent winter storm though. Union Home Mortgage 7-day forecast, much colder behind that storm on Saturday, but we bounce back quickly up into the 50s by Monday. We'll be back after this.
Hey Matt, we are talking a couple of different things today. I actually don't remember, but Kelly Clarkson has to pay a lot of money.
It is no question one of our favorite parts of the show each day. We do it every day. It's called our Daily Pop Break. We give you news from the entertainment world, and it's always spot on.
Well, we don't. Kara Cotton does, and she joins us now live from the newsroom. What's popping today, Key?
Hi, Jay and Betsy. You know, Kelly Clarkson has finally closed a chapter of her life, but it's going to cost her a pretty penny. Reports out today show that the American Idol alum has settled her divorce from Brandon Blackstock. However, the 39-year-old singer will have to pay Blackstock a one-time payment of over $1.3 million, plus $115,000 in spousal support up until 2024. That's not all. She'll also shell out more than $45,000 a month in child support for their two children, River and Remington, even though the couple will share joint custody. Clarkson filed for divorce in 2020 after 7 years of marriage to Blackstock. And speaking of people who are broken up, legendary pro skater Tony Hawk is recovering from a broken bone. The 53-year-old shared the news on Instagram saying, "This recovery for a broken femur will be much harder because of its severity and my age, but I'm up for the challenge." Broken bone and all, Hawk is still committed to his passion, ending the post saying, "I won't stop skating until I'm physically unable." We're wishing him a speedy and healthy recovery. And last but not least, Travis Scott is also on the mend. The Goosebumps rapper announced yesterday his new initiative, Project Heal. In a post on Instagram, he wrote, "I want to use my resources and platform moving forward towards actionable change. This will be a lifelong journey for me and my family." According to Scott, Project Heal will address the challenges facing today's youth when it comes to academic scholarships, mental health resources, and event safety. The initiative was created in honor of the victims of the Astroworld tragedy that occurred in Houston last November. Now, we covered the Astroworld tragedy extensively when it happened, and we'll continue to do so as we await the outcomes of numerous lawsuits against both Travis Scott and the event's organizers. Jay and Betsy.
Wow.
So much to talk about.
Okay, Key, thank you very much.
With you. Well, coming up in the next half hour of What's New, will there be a compromise between Major League Baseball and the Players Union anytime soon? We have the latest details on their negotiations.
There seems to be a glimmer of hope, which is good. Then it's creepy, it's crawly, and
it's
it
big.
is fast.
It's big.
And Betsy wants to strike home that it is massive. We're going to tell you about this invasive spider that's making its way closer to Ohio.
Like Daddy Longlegs look baby, okay? Putting it out there. Then Mike Polk Jr. is live with the biggest potholes in Northeast Ohio. Which one took home the big prize? Stay tuned. We'll let you know.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
Here are three things you need to know at 5:30. The Cleveland Fire Department says a space heater is what likely caused a deadly house fire yesterday morning. It happened just before 10. An 18-month-old and a 1-month-old died in the blaze. 3 other children managed to escape and were taken to Marymount Hospital with their mother, who wasn't home at the time of the fire. The oldest child was 14 years old. This happened on Jeffries Avenue.
Well, officials say at least 17 people were wounded in Ukraine when a Russian airstrike hit a maternity hospital today. The ground reportedly shook more than a mile away when it was hit by a series of blasts that blew out windows and ripped away most of the front of one of the buildings. The attack comes amid growing warnings from the West that Moscow's invasion is about to take a more brutal and indiscriminate turn. Authorities announced new ceasefires this morning so thousands of civilians can try to escape.
Today, the MAC basketball tournament got underway here in Cleveland. Both the men's and women's tournaments will be played at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. In the first game, number 1 seed Toledo beat number 8 seed Ohio University. That was the women's first quarterfinal game of the event. Men's games will begin tomorrow. Akron plays Buffalo, while Kent State faces Miami. And of course, being Bowling Green grads, I thought I would use this opportunity to inform you that the women, the BG women, will play their first game here in about an hour. They're going to take on Akron. And unfortunately, our men's team did not make the 8-team field.
Ziggy Zuma anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. With that, we welcome you into the second half hour of What's New with Betsy Kling. I'm Jay Crawford. Our countdown to spring.
Yes.
It's real. It's
happening.
Now just 11 days away. And this picture's beautiful. Jeffrey Andrews sends us a gorgeous picture of a butterfly that he captured in his backyard in Willowick last spring. Oh, I can feel the warmth of the sun now.
Looks like that's on some lilacs. One of my favorites.
Beautiful. Okay, Bets, now to our top talker. We're keeping a very close eye on Major League Baseball and the labor talks that are going on right now between the players' union and the owners. The good news is the talks carried on well into the morning hours today. I mean, they must be agreeing on something, right? No deal was made, but the union actually requested time to speak to its board this morning about the latest MLB proposal, and you would think that would be a good sign. They're going to get back to the owners sometime tonight. As of right now, and this is interesting because we had talked about how 6 games had already been canceled, the owners' most recent proposal was if you want to save the full 162 games, you absolutely must accept this deal. So even though we told you 6 games were off, it's possible those games could be salvaged if an agreement is reached today.
So instead of playing in March, we're going to play in October.
Yes,
so
most
Cleveland
likely.
Just not great.
I know six is one, half a dozen's the other in Cleveland. The hope here is that they can come to an agreement, immediately get to spring training. The players could be there within 48 hours.
Sure.
Have an abbreviated spring training, and then abbreviated spring training schedule of games, and still try to start the season in less than a month. I don't know that the union is going to agree to that, but one way or another, they will lose off days in the regular season. And like you said, they'll probably likely play into that first week of October.
And that's assuming that everything goes as scheduled. There's no rain delays or postponements.
Yeah.
We know how that goes.
We can't assume that.
No.
Not here. But I do think it's good news. You know, I've been following these things for many years, and I know that when negotiations go past the deadline, that's always a good sign, because if they were still oceans apart, one side or the other would have got up and left the table. The fact that they were there until the early morning hours, let's hope that we have baseball soon.
Get these Guardians going.
Yes.
All right, because, you know, we mentioned it before, your apocalyptic bingo card may not have this, but it might be one more thing to consider for the future. We now have a large spider species that is making its way from East Asia to the East Coast. It is the Joros spider, and it was first spotted in North Georgia in 2021, then later in South Carolina. A new study suggests it could spread even farther, and that it appears to be better suited for colder climates.
Oh, it's coming here then.
Super duper.
It's coming.
Right? Keep the kudzu, but we get the darn spiders. Come on, people. All right. Well, experts say they travel fast because they do what's called ballooning. It's when newly hatched tiny little spiderlings generate thin silk threads that they use as parachutes to travel on the wind. We're going to put this in the forecast now, spider forecast for you.
That's gross.
Yeah.
That's just gross.
Now, it's unclear how the spider arrived in the U.S., but in this global world, you know, this global economy, that's how things go. Experts say it does have venom to poison other creatures for meal, but its fangs are incapable of breaking human skin.
Oh.
So it becomes kind of like a really fancy daddy long leg, but it's big. 3 to 4 inches across. So that's like the palm of my hand. The legs would fit in there. Now, you may be going, oh, 3 to 4 inches, that's fine. Now, it's crawling and moving, and it's coming at you, and it's looking at you with its, eyes. And
that looks scarier than the daddy long. The daddy long legs look harmless.
That's got a much bigger body.
It does, and it's
it
colorful.
has scary markings.
And anytime you see color on a spider, you're
Not
like, okay,
good. Yeah.
what is that?
At least it's not furry. Furry spiders freak me out.
Yeah. That stops the presses. The furry spiders.
What
is it called? Ballooning?
Ballooning. Little parachutes.
They're riding the trade winds now?
Not the trade winds, the local winds. They're just kind of going along with the flow, so to speak.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, what I
So if you see little things flying through the air,
stop.
There it is, Bets. Look.
It's just
now
gross.
Look, turn around.
I am capable of seeing it on the television in front of me. It's much bigger in the background than it is in the foreground.
That is way bigger than my hand, Bets.
Well, it's on a giant TV.
No, they're telling me that this was not a zoomed-in picture. This is actual size, Mo? This is actual size.
I think we need to call in Godzilla and Mothra to take care of this bad boy.
That's a movie.
Bring some King Kong on.
That's scary.
It's got like the little blood pocket in the back. Come on now. We have just... Okay.
Blood pocket? Is that what you're calling it?
What it looks like to me. Maybe that's its heart. Oh,
blood pocket.
Friends. Okay, St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. Thank goodness. Maybe we can imbibe to take our spider thoughts away. We'll tell you why good old CLE ranks as one of the best places to celebrate ahead in clicking in Cleveland.
And the award goes to Mike Polk Jr. Listen to your suggestions, and he's going to join us to tell us where Ohio's worst potholes are, at least Northeast Ohio's. If you saw somebody out in the street with a tape measure recently, it was Mike. First, Matt's here. He's got our weather in a jiffy. You like spiders? You afraid of them?
I can't stand spiders, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one.
And big ones.
Especially that size one, for sure. I'm glad Mike Polk's okay. I told him to wear a helmet. He didn't. But.
Okay, what is going on? This is creepy.
Yeah, this is the robot monkey. This is exactly how I think everyone feels when they hear another winter storm's coming this way. You look at the models and you say, wait, what? What is this? Well, we'll talk about it next.
I would rather look at the spider than that thing.
Or that's Betsy when she first saw the picture of the spider.
Terrifying.
That could be, yeah.
Alrighty, it is 5:40 in the CLE, and we had some beautiful sunshine this afternoon. Certainly very welcome. But you are talking about more SNOW coming our way.
Right, and you will be at 6, Betsy, so don't just pin this on me, all right?
Punt to you.
Yeah, we've got some snow coming our way with this winter storm that we continue to track. It's going to be very impactful, especially east of here as you get out towards the East Coast. We'll still have to keep an eye on the track of this storm. I don't anticipate a lot of changes over the next day or two, but overall, it's going to be, a snow, and it's going to be kind of rough around here Friday night, Saturday morning, and then we'll clear things up. Did some digging, did a little math. 87.3% of our winter snowfall is typically in by now, so that saves 12.7% left. Climatologically, things never go climatologically right. That's just the average, but it's good to know we're getting there, right? April we have to get through first, and then May sometimes we get snow, but not always. Temperatures tonight, no snow, clear skies. We'll bring in some clouds. We did have that decent area of low pressure down to our south this morning. Spread the snow, especially south and east. Not a lot from that, but they saw 1 to 3 inches out towards the Pittsburgh area, a trace to an inch down in our southern counties. But you notice how we've dried things out. That's how we'll stay tomorrow. Colder airs diving south across the nation's Midland, though, and you can see with the polar jet diving south and the subtropical jet down to the south of that, these two are going to marry up. We're going to get moisture thrown into that cold air, and you know what that spells. That's our storm system later this week. No problems tonight, though. National Design Mart hour by our forecast will drop back into the 20s tonight. We'll see increasing clouds tomorrow morning, so you'll likely wake up with some high clouds around. Those clouds will stick around probably through midday, early afternoon. Can't rule out a stray shower. Some of the models indicating as this frontal boundary, it's a weak one, just settles down. May see a sprinkle or two down in the Canton area. Other than that, we're dry and we bring back sunshine, kind of like today. Start with clouds, we'll get sunshine later in the day. Should be a pretty nice afternoon, albeit a little bit cooler than today. So the track of this storm system, we got cold air diving into the plains like we talked about. The track's going to come right up the Appalachian chain. That puts us in pretty much the sweet spot for this storm system, but it doesn't come at us from the south. It actually comes at us from the west. So that will bring some rain snow mix in here Friday. And you notice as the lows coming up, we already have the moisture in place. So that rain snow will change over to likely a heavier wet snow by Friday evening. So if you have Friday evening plans, that's when things will start to go downhill. Could see some decent snowfall rates with this. Friday night looks snowy. We'll start to pick up some wind from the north as well. It'll be a cold driving wind, and that snow should taper as we go throughout the day Saturday with some lingering lake effect. Heaviest amounts are going to be east. Again, this could shift a little bit, but it's pretty much been in place. Models have some good agreement on this, but you notice how our heaviest amounts will likely be east. And we could be talking several inches, maybe 3 to 6, 2 to 4. We'll see where that pans out. But look at this, 8 to 14-day temperature range. We have some really nice spring-like air later next week. So forget about it this weekend. Union Home Mortgage 7-day forecast. Temp drop on Friday. There's your cold and wind on Saturday. But then we climb out of this just like we do with the spring forward on cue. 52 degrees by Monday and even warmer. Betsy will share that forecast with you tonight.
All right. Thanks so much, Matt.
All right, time to see what's clicking in Cleveland. For that, we bring in our digital anchor, Stephanie Haney. Stephanie, a good Wednesday afternoon to you.
Good Wednesday to you, Jay. And we have a big holiday coming up next week, and our Cleveland Irish population can be very proud because Wallet Hub has ranked our fair city as the 13th best place to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. It'll be a good one this year with the return of the parade. We came in 5th for average price of St. Patrick's Day party ticket, 12th for Irish pubs and restaurants per capita, and 16th in St. Patrick's Day parties and festivals per capita. So get your green ready. You've got 1 week to prepare for all of this fun. Now, Cavaliers point guard Darius Garland is getting a lot of attention for his performance last night, including from his former classmate, NFL Rams player Jalen Ramsey. Garland put up a career-best 41 points with 13 assists and 5 rebounds against Indiana, and Ramsey shared a tweet about saying that when they went to the same school in Nashville, Garland, who is 5 years younger, wanted to play him one-on-one on the court, and it was a good thing that it didn't happen because Garland would have won. Nothing but respect, clearly, for his former classmate. And in last night's episode of The Bachelor, we see the women, including Ohio University graduate Rachel Rakia, get completely blindsided by Clayton Eckward. Rachel had a lovely date with him, touring Iceland in a helicopter and exploring a volcano before staying the night together in a fantasy suite date. The issue is, Clayton told each of the 3 women he was in love with them, got intimate with 2 of them, and then totally blew up on the 3rd, Susie Evans, when she told him she was not okay with that. Betsy, you are reacting like everyone did because he was completely dragged on social media for this. Now, Rachel didn't take the news well either, and we see everyone crying in previews for next week. I'll be honest with you, Jay and Betsy, it was really tough to watch and really tough to sort of relive that when I was writing about it today on the recap.
Dude.
Not a good look.
It just to me sounds like a horrible social experiment gone awfully wrong.
Or college. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand. This is like a dormitory in college. Yeah. Like, if you think back to the days, I don't know if the guys' dorms were like this, but it's literally down in the bathroom and you have 28 people in the bathroom. Everybody's talking about what happened and it's just drama. And you have to throw your hands up and go, y'all are just dumb with what's going on.
Well, that's what they're saying online, too, you know. This is it's not exactly the standard route. Clayton's taking a special approach to this.
A special is one way to put it.
Yeah, that's one word.
Wow.
Okay. Stephanie, thank you.
Wow. Mind-blowing. All right, pothole prizes. Mike Polk Jr. is about to hand out the prize for the best or worst chuck hole in Northeast Ohio. That's apparently a thing, chuck hole, not just pothole.
I didn't know they were called chuck holes, but apparently
most people don't. I got ripped a couple times on it.
And Cadbury Doggy, meet the finalist that's from Ohio. Man, is this thing cute? It's our show us something good. Look at that. Well, we've been talking about it for weeks now because when the temperature it goes hot, cold, you get those big, huge potholes in the road. And they're all over Northeast Ohio. It's pothole season.
It is.
What I'm trying to say.
And everybody seems to think they have it worst in their part of town. So Mike Polk Jr. asked our viewers to send us the locations of the most impressive potholes in Cleveland. And Mike, you join us now live in the newsroom. I imagine that there were no shortage of supplies on this one.
That's correct, Betsy. And we made it very clear that we were only looking for the big boys here. The most hellacious hollows and calamitous chasms. No dinky dugouts or simple dimples. We wanted to know where to find the randiest ruts, the most depressing depressions, those catastrophic cavities where you really feel the gravity. And because you're the best viewers in the greater Cleveland area, you did provide. If you've attempted to drink a hot beverage in your car over the last few weeks, then you are well aware that it is pothole season in Cleveland. And boy, do we have some beauties on display this year. When we asked our viewers for tips on where to find the best of the best, the response was both extensive and animated. And though we can't show the majority of those posts because they were riddled with justifiable profanity, it was incredibly helpful, and the game was afoot. We followed your leads and struck out to find the best of the best, meticulously measuring and documenting each candidate to assess depth, width, and overall danger level. Bridget Ginley insisted we check out this impressive West Side specimen on Route 237 near Cam's Corner. And understandably so. It's a top-tier tire biter. From there, we moved south to the merciless minefield that is the Parma area. We received more than one nomination for this gaping gulch near State and Bidoff. And though not particularly deep, she sure was wide.
He's a 7-footer!
We were then east side bound, where we were tipped off to this perilous pit located on Superior and Euclid. And we can confirm it's quite nasty. From there, we meandered downtown and into the flats, where we were told to check out the mess that is Train Avenue, which, in addition to looking like every crime scene location from CSI, also has some truly horrendous pothole action, made all the worse by the fact that it was apparently high tide.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I thought we had found our winner right there. But since we were in the area, we had one more viewer tip we wanted to check out. So we wandered up to the stretch of road in the flats known as the Irish Bend. And let me tell you folks, it was no malarkey. These were no ordinary potholes. These were grade A axle crackers, and plenty of them.
I haven't seen one of these since maybe 85, 86.
This place had everything we were looking for. Quantity, quality, poor visibility. It's on a hill with a dramatic curve, hence the term Irish Bend. It is distinctly hazardous. And hence, we had found our champion.
I declare this general area to be the best pothole in Cleveland. By that I mean the worst, obviously.
So congratulations to the infamous Irish Bend on your well-earned title. And thanks to everyone who helped to guide us on this harrowing journey. May the road rise up to meet you. And may that road be relatively smooth, at least by Cleveland standards.
Number 1, Irish Bend. Nice job, everybody.
Wow. That is insane how deep that thing is.
And there were a lot of them, too. And I want to make this clear. This was not obviously a totally comprehensive study by any means. We went off of viewer feedback and whatnot. So save it if you have some at home that you're just like, mine's way worse. When I was measuring potholes, I had people coming up to me on the street and saying, you want to see a real pothole? Come over to my house. And so everyone has their passions about it, but these are the best that we found given what we had to work with.
Unbelievable.
My vision for this annual Pothole Award is one day, Mike, we actually have a parade in the area that is deemed the most treacherous.
Yes, you're right.
I would go. I would attend that.
Scooters and tricycles.
Well, the parade would consist of city workers and shovels full of tar, and we can fix the road during the parade. Wow. That would be fun.
Brilliant. Yep, that's why you're in charge, Jay.
Maybe next year we can do that.
Yeah.
Mike, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
No problem. Be safe.
Well, it's a big deal every year before Easter, and this year, Ohio has a finalist in the chase to be named the Cadbury Bunny.
Oh, my word.
It's our Show Us Something Good, and it's great. And it's next.
All right, so today is Barbie's birthday. What year was she born? 1947, 1959, or 1962? We'll have that answer when we come right back.
Hey, David, I got you. How are you? I'm good. I'm good. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you, sir.
Self-proclaimed. All right, before the break, we asked you what year Barbie was born, and the answer is 1959. According to Good Housekeeping, Mattel president and Barbie inventor Ruth Handler debuted the doll at the American International Toy Fair in New York. Since then, she's had more than 200 careers, too.
Yeah, she's been busy. She doesn't look that old, I will tell you that.
Looks fantastic.
And also, we want to say happy birthday to our producer, Monique Zapp.
Yes.
Momo. Happy birthday, Monique. Today's show, Something Good, is from right here in Ohio. Cadbury has selected an Ohio dog as one of the top 10 finalists for their 2022 bunny tryouts. Will you look at Annie Rose? Betsy, she's an English doodle, could be the star of Cadbury's next clucking bunny commercial. She gets my vote. She's a therapy dog from Cincinnati who visits nursing homes all dressed up. Her owner says even during the pandemic, when visitors were not allowed into hospitals, she still made the visits. She did the window visits and brightened up days all along. You can vote for Annie Rose on the Cadbury website. March 22nd is your deadline to vote, so you still have a little bit of time there. And
I always love to see what else they have going for these finalists, because remember the year they had a frog?
I know,
like an iguana?
I do
It was like,
remember that.
what's going on here? At least we've got some cute fur and personality.
Man,
jeez,
what a pretty dog. I hope she wins.
Me too.
Okay, that's it. We're out of time. Back tomorrow at 5, and we hope to see you then.
3 News at 6 with Russ and Laura starts now.
Enormous destruction. Ukraine says Russia bombed and destroyed a children's hospital in the southern part of the country just hours ago. We have the latest on the situation. Refugee crisis. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians are running from the fighting, fleeing to places like nearby Poland. Why some of them could end up here, pinching pennies.
And if you're in a position to help, goodness sakes, we sure need it.
From gas to food, everything is costing more these days. And it's not only impacting everyday people, how the Cleveland Food Bank is dealing with it. Plus, much needed jobs. New details on the project that's being proposed right here in Northeast Ohio.
Live from WKYC Studios, this is 3 News at 6 with Russ Mitchell and Laura Queso.
Good evening, and thanks for being with us.
Tonight, as Russian troops continue to fight, Ukrainians are preparing for the worst.
Vice President Kamala Harris has arrived in Poland amid a dust-up over supplying fighter jets as the U.S. and NATO allies look to bolster Ukraine's defenses without getting dragged into a wider war. We begin tonight with NBC's Alice Barr with the latest now from Washington.
In a vivid display of the horrors of war, Ukraine is accusing Russia of bombing a maternity and children's hospital during a ceasefire designed to let civilians escape. President Volodymyr Zelensky calling it an atrocity. It comes as Vice President Kamala Harris travels to Poland for a trip meant to show unity with allies, but complicated by a public disagreement over arming Ukraine with fighter jets. Poland wants to donate the jets, but have the U.S. deliver them in a plan U.S. officials called untenable.
The intelligence community has assessed that the transfer of MiG-29s to Ukraine may be mistaken as escalatory and could result in a significant Russian reaction that might increase the prospects of a military escalation with NATO.
The U.S. and allies promising to keep sending weapons to Ukraine.
Things like Stingers, Javelins, the air defense, anti-tank.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken stressing he's convinced Russian President Vladimir Putin will fail, noting his increasing isolation as Western leaders step up sanctions and many of the world's biggest companies pull out of Russia.
What we're looking at is whether or not President Putin will decide to try to finally cut the losses that he's inflicted on himself.
President Biden looking to cut the pain here at home as a U.S. ban on Russian oil sends soaring gas prices even higher. On Capitol Hill, close to $14 billion in defense and humanitarian aid for Ukraine working its way through Congress as part of a massive spending bill. Ukrainian officials raised alarm today about a power outage at the Chernobyl nuclear plant that's now under Russian control, though international monitoring agencies say there's no critical impact on safety at the site. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
In the 2 weeks since the invasion, more than 2 million Ukrainians have fled the country, and that number is growing. We learned today nearly half of the refugees are children traveling with their mothers, and in some cases,